The best internet radio station in the world.
Tomato podcast.
Yo! Wow, that was a bit loud. All right, let me put my tea down for a sec. I got a couple guests waiting in the waiting room. So let's, hold on. Before we admit them in, got one more coming in. Man said he got the link. All right. Cool. Was, can you hear us? Please say you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Oh, thank God. All right, we're ready to go.
Yes, Was.
What's going on?
How you been?
I'm alright, man. How you been?
Rah, you lot are going to introduce yourselves like this on my podcast.
Sorry. Been a while.
Brothers, can we have decorum, please, yeah? Whilst I, get this shit on the road. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. Technical issues have been sorted out, and I'm joined here today with three amazing guests. You know what? This is unprecedented. Let me tell you why. Because never in the history of this show have we had three guests on one episode. Wow, we have come a long way. I must say, not even just three average Joes, yeah? I'm not talking about friends and families here. I'm talking about people who actually have platforms. Do you know what that means? That means we're going to get more listeners by default because these men have a lot of followers. So please, at the end of this episode, give us a cheeky little plug. Tell your followers to have a listen because we're trying to make it. We're trying to get somewhere. You know what I'm trying to say? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tomato Podcast, episode 49. Wow, we are one away from half a century. And I remember this time last year, having a conversation with my co-host saying, wow, guys, we're like a few episodes away from half a century. And then we stopped. But here we are. So the journey continues. And I'm going to introduce our guests because, I'm really excited about this episode. I couldn't really have a good night's sleep last night because I knew I had to be up at 9 a.m. And an early start for me since lockdown has been a little bit iffy. So, so I've got man like Was, a filmmaker in the scene, and I've got Blitz as well, Bengali Blitz, who is a comedian and an influencer on social media, and I've got Lubna as well, ex-apprentice participant and a businesswoman as well. Guys, what's going on?
Yo.
Don't all speak at once. That was sarcasm. You can.
Bro, I think your head's cut off from the camera, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Do you know why? Because I'm basically recording in my car because that's where I get the best audio quality. Okay. And yeah, and my laptop can only go up so much.
Oh, fair enough. That makes sense.
Like, if you do it, I'll try and but that is a bit weird. So,
yeah.
Lubna, I think you've muted yourself. You can unmute yourself by all means.
Yeah,
don't be shy.
I have muted myself.
Yeah, that's all right. How you doing? How's it going?
Sorry?
How's it going?
Yes, it's going good now that we've sorted the technical issues.
Yeah. Lubna, do you know what, yeah? When you first joined The Apprentice, the first thing I noticed about you is you have my name, but it is your surname. And I've never seen that in my life. That's wicked. How did that come up?
Well, that's my husband's first name, so it is quite strange that I've taken his first name but it's quite common in Asian culture, for Pakistani culture anyway, that you take your husband's first name as your surname. But it's weird because my children have his surname, but I have his first name. So when we go on holidays, like everyone's passport surname's different.
That is mad. So the person checking your passports are probably looking at you like, rah, what one? That's crazy.
Yeah, in hindsight, I'm not sure that was a good idea, but I may think of changing it in future. To be honest, a lot of people can't even pronounce it because they just say Farhan.
Yeah, no one can. No one can. I remember my teachers, every supply teacher would pronounce it differently. There was Farhan, there was Farhan, there was Farhan, there was this, that, and the other. Anyways, yeah, really cool name. Blitz, what's going on, man?
You tell me, man. Up early morning.
I know, man. I got you up at the crack of the dawn. What can I say? You got to wake up to catch that. What's the saying? Early bird catches the worm. Something like that. How you been, man? How's lockdown treated you? Been treated?
Yeah, I've been well. I've been keeping busy. Eating lots.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do.
Right? And I know you've got a takeaway as well. How long have you had that?
Sorry, that's been going on for about 8 months.
Okay, so fairly new.
7, 8 months. Yeah, it's fairly new.
How's that going so far? It must be really weird
it's going all right. Sorry?
I said it must be a really weird time for you right now.
Yeah, it is, but it's going okay.
I imagine as a takeaway, you'd be sort of racking in a little bit more business. Or am I completely wrong?
All praise to the one above, man.
Yeah, trust me.
All praise to the one above.
Where's your takeaway? What's it called?
It's called Zizu Express. It's in my little town. I live in Northamptonshire. I live in a little town.
No, I'm familiar with that, with Northampton. Is it Northampton or Northamptonshire? Like, what's the difference?
Northamptonshire. Yeah. The town's called Wellingborough.
Okay. See, I know Northampton because I have a few relatives up there. Well, I say they're relatives. They're not really relatives. They just live in the same village as us. So
that's basically a relative.
We call them relatives.
Bengali culture, yeah.
You know about that. Was, are you Bengali or Pakistani? Because I'm not actually too sure.
This is the problem, man. I'm Bengali, 100% Bengali, and proud to be Bengali, man. Okay. Everyone thinks I'm Pakistani because of the name, so...
Yes, that's what it was.
That's where the problem is. Yeah, no, of course, no, I'm 100%.
I'm afraid you're on your own here, representing...
I was going to say, then why is it a problem being Pakistani? Am I joined the wrong podcast?
Nah, there's nothing wrong with being Pakistani, absolutely, but where I'm, like, I come from a strong Bengali family, and a strong, and I'm proud to be where I'm from, where my village is back home. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my heritage and everything my heritage stands for. So that's why.
Do you know what? It's funny because when people see me, lots of people think I look Bengali.
You do. I thought you were Bengali at first.
I thought you were Pakistani straight away from The Apprentice. So I knew. I thought, who was the other Asian girl with you?
Aisha.
I thought she was Bengali.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been able to tell if she was Bengali or not.
So, but yeah.
She's a very she's a niche Asian. Like you wouldn't find any Asian like her, I don't think.
What do you mean?
She's very different.
Like what?
Like I feel like she's very. Her personality is very. Does anybody watch Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I watched the first one, and then it got a bit long after that. So.
Did anybody watch after the third movie?
Yeah.
Anyone know who Luna Lovegood is?
Yeah.
Bruv, she's a spitting image of like Luna Lovegood.
No, I wouldn't say that. No,
in terms of personality-wise,
Luna Lovegood is like she's mad weird and like unpredictable. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
say
but one man's weird is another man's sort of I don't know, not normal, but like I would consider myself as quote unquote weird, but that's because maybe I'm just not normal. I don't know.
That's mad. I didn't expect my introduction to be about Harry Potter.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. This podcast, you find everything. Yeah, so I should really introduce to you guys what this is about. Some of you might not know. So we are the Tomato Podcast, and basically what we do is we discuss weekly trending news in the entertainment industry or things that matter most within our communities. And the whole purpose why we created the Tomato Podcast is because we believe the mainstream media don't have voices that represent our community. So this is a platform that allows our listeners to hear news from a different voice or from a different perspective. And so what we do when we bring in our guests, rather than spend an hour and a half interviewing them, learning about them, we want to know their opinions on certain topics that have been happening during this week. So this week will be really, really interesting to discuss because so much has happened. Last week we had a Black Lives Matter special with 2 black individuals, and that was a very, very interesting topic, a very interesting episode, controversial, a little bit heated. It was all of that. So today, last week I didn't say anything. I mean, I have the biggest mouth, especially on this platform. I love to hear the sound of my own voice, but last week I was there just like, nah, I am not going to say anything. I'm just going to listen and learn. And I learned a lot. There were many things that I agreed with, many things I didn't agree with. And hopefully we can build on that discussion and we can take it from there. So do you think we've broken the ice a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. I'd say so.
You guys, I don't know, are you okay to move on?
Yes, the ice has been melted.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. Blitz, you all right?
I'm all good, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So, my co-hosts aren't with me again this week. This is the 3rd week in a row. Guys, really fix up. My my co-host, our co-host, Pfizer, has given us a list of things to discuss. Well, we had the list of things to discuss. She's just ordered it the right way round. So I'm going to honor that and try and follow that to give us a bit of structure. And we'll start off with a bit of technology news that we heard this week. I don't know, Lubna, are you a massive PlayStation fan? Do you play games consoles? Maybe your children, your husband?
No, I have a life outside of I have a life.
That's mad.
I've got too many things to do. I've got two things. Who do you think I am sitting there gaming?
Oh, come on, man. You can't shit on PlayStation. Especially after what they released this week. What do we think, boys? Are you guys PlayStation fans or Xbox fans?
PlayStation, bro.
I'm a PlayStation guy.
Okay, sweet. Okay, we can have a discussion then. Perfect. So PlayStation released their new design. They launched the PlayStation 5 earlier this week, a couple of days ago. I watched the full launch from minute 1 to minute 68, whatever it was. And I must say, I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest with you, because I think the PS4 came out when 2013, something like that. So it's been about 7-8 years since the PS4 was launched, and I expected a little bit more. Do you guys think, that we're now moving into the future of gaming? Because I think we've moved on, but we're going to be moving on ever so slightly. There hasn't been a real revolution in the technology in the gaming industry. What do you guys think?
Blitz, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's all the sell technique, isn't it? So basically, what they'll do is upgrade. Like the Xbox, for example, has got a better CPU than the PlayStation, but I think they'll just slightly increase it every 6-7 years and just make it better and better. So then people would want to buy it again. I think if they revolutionize it or make it, as good as they can, then they probably can't advance in the next few years. So maybe they're just doing it as a sell technique. I think they would have done it better, but it's just Apple, isn't it? I'm sure.
These men are moving like Apple. It's like the same.
That's what I'm saying. They're moving like Apple, but
same interface. Yeah, it's mad because the way that I saw it, I thought we were gonna get something completely out of this world. A control pad that was gonna have like a screen on it. You know that little the
hologram
thing. Yeah, the hologram. I thought it was gonna be like a screen where you could like interactively do stuff. Like in COD, for instance, you could just change your weapons on there, whatever. But yeah, I feel like we basically got the same design, a few little tweaks here and there, and massive inflation in price. What do you think, Wes?
Bro, I think if you talk about are they moving like Apple, I'll be real with you. They have every right to, because you got to think of it like this. When the PS2 came out, like it was crazy. Like everyone was like, "Whoa, this is so much better than PlayStation 1, whatever." So and so. And then when it came to the PS3, they stumbled because Xbox 360 was way better. Xbox 360 was way better. But then when they brought out the PS4 compared to the Xbox One, they changed the game. They completely changed. Everything was better. Like literally down to the T, everything was better. So now, let's be real. All the real gamers are either on their PC or they're on the PlayStation. Not many people are with the Xbox right now anymore, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I think they have every right to, and they will, bro. So, but I didn't watch it from like you. I didn't watch it from off. I just saw glimpses how much it is because I didn't have time. I was at work, so even like today later on, I got work today as well. When I got a chance to, maybe I'll see it again. Let me watch the highlights, recap on the key things, and see what it's saying. But for me personally, I'll be real with you. I'm at that point. It's like if an iPhone comes out, I'll buy an iPhone. If a PlayStation comes out, I'll always buy PlayStation. I don't think I'll ever buy. I've only bought Xbox once and I regretted it, and then I went straight to buy my PS3.
360. You bought 360.
Yeah, I bought the 360 Elite, and none of my mates had the Xbox. They all had PS3, and then I moved yard. Like literally 5-6 months later, I moved houses. I moved over to Essex, and then all my new friends are on Xbox instead of.
Wait, what part of Essex are you living in?
I'm not gonna bait that out, bro.
Alright, cool. Because I'm basically in Essex myself.
I'll message you. I'll message you in it though.
Cool. Say that.
But yeah, for me personally, I don't think I'll ever buy Xbox again. I'll always be buying PlayStation unless Sony go bankrupt. So
for real. So, Lubna, as a businesswoman, you have a good idea as to how you would want to maybe market the PlayStation 5. I don't know if you've read anything about it or seen the launch or anything, but
no. So my husband's into all this technical stuff, so I always go to him for any technical questions. But look, they're a business, and I'm sure a lot of advanced technology they've already got. But as a business, you're not going to release everything in one go. It's like mobile phones. They've got all the technology, but they're kind of competing against each other. And they want to make sure that they've got something new to give in a new version each time that they release something. So it gives people an incentive to buy the newer version. So your old version could be working completely fine, PS4, whatever. But if it's not if the next version isn't going to have anything worth buying the new version for, then why would you want to bother? So I think they need to make it, obviously, give an incentive to people to buy, but they've already got a lot of the advanced technology, and they're not going to, like a lot of this that you mentioned, the issue, I was expecting this and that. I'm sure in later versions, they're going to have all those things, but they're not going to have everything all in one go. But yeah, I've never been into games, to be fair, although I'd love to have them. They've always been too expensive, and I've never had the time. But I think this is more of a, I mean, I don't want to say that females don't play games, but it's more of a masculine male thing.
Yeah, Steam does that, isn't it? Let me ask you a question. If you were to, let's say, what three things would the PS5 need to have for you to want to play it? I'm going to ask all of you guys, but Lubna, why don't you get started off?
What three things it needs to have?
Yeah, what three things would it need to have for you in order for you to want to buy it?
I would say it's a tough question because it's more of a lifestyle choice. Like, even if, for me, the price is a really big factor.
Yeah.
I find all these games and everything too expensive. Like, you need to buy the PS4 and then you need to buy games. Me personally, I'm probably not the right person to ask because I don't have the time to sort of play games. But for me, I think the price would be a really big factor. And I'm not really concerned about anything else, really. But I'm probably not a good person to ask. I'm not really into games.
Okay, Blitz.
I'm not the target customer at all. Let's just say that.
One day, I hope your husband gets you into it. It's mad. It's like, especially the graphics. Oh my days! When I saw Gran Turismo, my mind was blown away. No, but then I saw Ratchet and Clank. Oh my days, bruv! I've never been more excited to see a game in my life. Ratchet and Clank looks like the waviest thing in this universe. Incredible. Blitz,
I don't want to rock the waters, but I'm sorry to say I've never understood why grown men still play games. I get why kids play it. Why grown men are still interested in playing games, I just don't get it. How do you guys still have the time? I mean,
represent us well, please.
I don't have much time these days, but when I'm thinking about when I used to play a lot, then
I'll explain because I'm a grown man that still plays games now. Obviously, where you've had a long day and you come home, everyone has their vices. Do you know what I'm saying? Whether it's, someone's vice might be drinking, someone's vice might be smoking shisha. And I wouldn't understand how a grown man with a family would be, why would he go out drinking with his boys or whatever? Or why would he be out at a shisha lounge? You got to question these things. When someone's at home playing a game, it's their vice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I come home, play NBA, play FIFA, play GTA. It's a mind of things. It's a stress relief, and I enjoy it. And I'm not even lying. Like, back in the day when I was young, I probably played it way more than I do now. But when I got the chance to play it, a grown man playing games, well, it's my vice, innit? I enjoy it. And it's like, you take yourself out of the real world. Like, when you're in NBA, like, fam, I've never been an NBA star, but I love the fact that I'm winning NBA championship rings. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so it's basically a stress relief. I guess it depends on obviously whether you've got other commitments, like a family, and how long you're spending on it. Like, some people go crazy, like 12 hours. So if they're on it for 12 hours and not giving their family or kids and wife time,
I don't think no one's ever going to do that. I think, because obviously that's
trust me, there are some people who do that.
But obviously, I don't know people who actually do that. So obviously, I can't speak for that, unfortunately. But I think, look, for example, like, I wish my dad would pick up a PS4 controller and play FIFA with me like he used to.
Trust me, I've tried.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but he just can't do that anymore. So there will come a point where men will probably stop playing games. But I'll be real. until I get arthritis, I'm not stopping. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
trust me.
Okay. So you're a proper like gamer.
no, not a proper. I think Farhan's probably a proper gamer than more of a gamer than I am.
Not even. Do you know what
I
it
just
is?
play FIFA, NBA, and GTA. That's all I need. I don't even play COD. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, neither. I don't play COD. I'll tell you something, Lubna. This is what I think is the main reason people play PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, games consoles. Yeah. Main reason is I think is escapism, allowing you to go into a different reality. It's a bit deep, yeah. But take me for instance, yeah. I've always wanted to be a footballer, but it's never worked out because I'm just not a great baller, innit?
All dreams do that.
So what I did
Knee injury. Knee injury.
Cruciate ligament. So what happened was recently I made a career mode on FIFA, and I made myself in the game as a player. And what I've recently done is I started off my career at Ajax. I then moved on to Chelsea. I won the Champions League there. I moved on to AC Milan. I moved on to Barcelona. I won the La Liga there. And then
All a dream.
my boyhood club Arsenal signed me. And I cannot explain to you, Lubna, how that makes me feel inside. Like I take this shit.
Okay, so basically you're happy living in an alternative reality.
Yes.
Like basically, like, I like reading books, right? I'm a geek, so I go into my own world when I'm reading books. That kind of thing, similar to gaming.
Yeah.
But do you think I know it's not the topic for today, but do you think it can be dangerous as well where kids, for example, are watching or playing games, which are a bit more violent? No, but there's violent games out there.
Doesn't matter.
Do you not think that has an impact on them? You don't? You've done it?
Let me put it like this, yeah? Let me put it like this, all right? Violence is always going to be out there, no matter, like, for example, football gets violent. Football hooliganism was at its heights in the 80s. Little kids were going to these games with West Ham versus Millwall, whatever, you name it. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I believe me playing GTA, yeah, I'm not going to go out and be like, cool, I'm going to go buy a bazooka and just blast the car. I'm not going to go and do that. It's just fun. Like, it's just fun to have a safe space like GTA and actually...
Safe place to blow things up.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't say that because then that might be used against me.
Yeah, we're not using them terms around here.
Yeah, so, but look, when you're playing GTA, you're not actually going to go out in the real world and shoot people up, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be like, yeah, GTA inspired me to go and do this. Do you know what I'm saying? You're going to do this out of your own accord or other things, but we're not going to get into that because that's a deeper conversation. But it doesn't have a huge impact. I wouldn't even say it has an impact like that because me and my brother, clean record, I've been to university, done my master's. My brother's going to university soon. Sister's been to university. And we all three of us, we've all played GTA. I don't think it has a huge effect like that. With my mates as well, so.
Sorry, I was going to say, Blitz, what about you? What do you think? Violence relating to games consoles?
Do you know what? Like, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know if if I get in trouble.
Brother, just speak your mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't get in trouble. I've got a lot of nephews, right? A lot of nephews, a lot of nieces. And with my nephews, I used to let them play GTA at 3 years old. But
That's mad. I can't lie to you.
They weren't allowed to use the weapons. They had to put the sound down and that. Yeah. And they weren't allowed to, beep their horn at the ladies walking past. But let me tell you something.
Oh, my days.
They weren't allowed to do none of that. Yeah. But my nephews turned out great. The innocent boys, they're all right. They're fine. They don't play it no more. But I don't think it encourages violence. I think it just depends on the child. So some of them are like sponges, right?
I agree.
I feel like sometimes they soak it all in, but a lot of the times I don't think it encourages violence. So it's just like watching a film, isn't it?
Like watching an Al Pacino film.
No one's gonna sell 1 million kilos of drugs after watching Scarface.
Well,
I guess on the games there's like a rating as well, the age rating. So if you're
So
with that, then but if you're not, then obviously it's gonna potentially have an impact.
I'm sure there are loads of sort of psychological research that has been done in gaming, underage children playing violent games and how that affects.
I turned out well. So
what's that? Yeah, you turned. Yeah. The majority of us do, and I see the argument that Lubna makes is a very valid argument, and
of course.
I see the counter argument.
One psycho. You know what I mean? It takes one psycho who's seen the game. Obviously, everyone's different, so it impacts people differently, and it depends on what your home environment is like as well. So if it's quite aggressive anyway, and then you're watching a game where you're in an alternative reality, and then you don't know the difference between reality and the game world. I don't know, because there have been incidences, I think mostly in America.
I think there's individual cases, of course. I think there's individual cases for everything.
But the majority of it, I was going to say the majority of it is to do with other factors as well. So, for example, in America, because it's so accessible to get guns, it's easy to go into a school and just kill
innocent kids.
Thousands of kids. Whereas in this country, and also I think it does really depend on your environment and the norms and values that, you know, cultural norms and values that are put into place within your environment. Because to see a violence that's been incited through a video game in the UK would be unheard of. Like, I don't know if it's ever happened in the UK. To my knowledge, I don't think so. But I can name loads in America. So, I mean, loads of different factors come into play. But, Lubna, you do make a very valid point of age restriction. But at the end of the day, fam, we got to do something, innit? Like...
But I think the issue is when there is an age restriction, like... it was mentioned that you've got 3-year-olds potentially. I know that you put the volume down and they're not allowed to use a gun, but they're still being exposed to something potentially where there's an age rating and it's not being complied. But as you said, you know, they've all turned out well. But I think not everyone complies with the restrictions put on, and that can potentially have impact. But in everyone's...
But in an ideal world, that's never going to happen. You're never, ever going to restrict a child from being exposed to these kind of things, because we live in such a fast-moving world where violence is everywhere. Everywhere. Yesterday, it was like it was glued to our screens, our newspapers today, this morning. Like, we don't, like, some may argue that the millennials that are growing up now, what's the new generation called? What do they call them?
Yeah, the millennials.
Is it millennials?
Yeah, it's the millennials.
So what are we called?
I don't know what we're called. I'm the 90s baby, innit? So
yeah, nice. All right, cool.
I'm an 89 baby, so what?
You make the bracket, don't you?
Nah, I'd rather stay at 80.
It's really confusing, this. That's the thing, this whole millennial thing as well. Like, who's a millennial? And then the baby boomers generation?
The millennials and the millennials, as far as I'm aware, is anyone that was born after 2000s or also could have been raised in the 2000s as well. 90s babies, anyone born in the 90s or near the 90s as well. And the 80s babies, obviously, you know, you've got Blitz, but the 80s babies. That's what as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I know there's very technical terms for all of that kind of brackets. But anyway, so as I was saying, the millennials are born into violence. They know nothing but violence. If anything, we should be expecting more violence to come from them. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Is that really true? Because I think if you look historically, the human population was actually more violent. So you used to have obviously wars and everything like that. Yeah. And actually there's studies done that have shown that we're actually less violent now. There's less wars happening. There's less everything happening. Really? So I think just because something's in the news does not mean that is representative of what, as a society historically, I think we've already moved on quite a lot. It may seem that because you're watching a lot of stuff on the news, but the reality is that historically we've actually improved and we're actually less violent.
You got to think about the Vikings, the Romans.
Yeah, man.
Back in this.
I don't know, like, for me, back in the days of the Vikings and Romans, it was like survival of the fittest. Whereas now, we live in a society where
we live in a globalized world, bro. So now it's all proxy wars now, like literally. That's all it is. And I think where everyone's scared of an all-out nuclear war, which is never going to happen, by the way, because that'll be the most dumbest thing a country can ever do. I think that's where, like, Lubna's kind of right. Like, historically, it's been way more violent. And then obviously Blitz just said, obviously, the Vikings, the Romans. Now we've just got all these proxy wars, like, between countries, do you know what I'm saying? Or even, like, I don't even think you can call them a war, just disputes. And anytime there's a dispute, what happens? Oh, sanction on this country, sanction on that country. Don't get me wrong, wars are still going on today. Like, we can't even deny that. But I think it is less violent than historically, definitely.
But I think now in like a globalized world, like for example, the Black Lives Matter movement, because we're so globalized now, something can happen in one side of the world and it can impact and have a movement that's created all around the world. Definitely. So, speaking about violence, so something happened, which was wrong, obviously, in America. But now there's demonstrations happening in countries where that thing didn't even happen. Like there's UK, there's Australia, there's all around the world. So I think that with globalization, it's possible to have that kind of movement. Whereas historically, I know that we were more violent, like in the Vikings time and all that, but there's less chance of that happening. We have kind of moved on, but it's changed. What the nature of our, I guess, wars and disagreements, that has changed. The reasons and the nature of it.
Okay, you made a very beautiful transition into another key topic which we're going to discuss, which is BLM. And we're continuing on from this debate for the third week in a row because it has taken over the headlines and the news and social media, etc., etc. This week's been very, 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 very interesting. Last week, I had two black individuals on the show who were trying to explain and make me understand what BLM was trying to achieve, because one of the main problems that I had with BLM was that there were too many chiefs, too many voices, and people wanting too many different things. So there was no sense of direction. There was no real clear objective in mind, because one person would say, for example, my interpretation of BLM was we want to stop and eradicate institutional racism, especially within the police force, but within other institutions as well. Now, another person would tell me that the main reason BLM was happening was to unite the black community to try and sort out their problems within. And let me just ask you guys what you think the main objective of BLM is. I know none of us are black individuals, which is fine because we had two black individuals last week. So it would be nice to have a different perspective from this topic. So I'll start off with Was. What do you think, bro?
For me, Black Lives Matter has always been about ending police brutality, ending institutional racism, creating a fair space for black people, actually caring about black lives, where you see, obviously, look, it stems in the name Black Lives Matter. Unfortunately, black lives hasn't mattered in the eyes of, let's say, in white America. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the truth of it. So I think that's how I've always interpreted that, black lives should matter to these people in the States, whether it's higher government, whether it's the police force, or whether it's, anyone in white America.
Blitz.
Yeah, I agree with Wes. Black Lives Matter is about injustice against. I think it started after Trayvon Martin got killed. And
it started many years ago, but it was just...
Yeah, but I think it's from like 2013 when the actual movement started. But I think that, it's against systematic racism, violence, everything against black people and them standing up for it. I guess that's what Black Lives Matter is about. Explained it well.
Lubna, what do you think?
Well, I think it is to change people's mindset that it's not okay to discriminate, because even I think people who would probably not see themselves as racist, they may have sort of unconscious bias or something like that, and that's, I would say, the majority of people probably fit in that kind of bracket. And it's to raise awareness that it's actually not okay to do this. And unless people speak up and do protests, unfortunately, nothing's really going to change. So, but I think it's a difficult one, because if you look at history, where you've had, a lot of black people in the past who've been used as slaves, and then they've come to America, etc. And so their history has been based on that. So it's difficult for, I would say, a lot of white individuals in America, for example, if I just use them as an example, to kind of get out of that. I think, so for me, it's all about discrimination, but it's going to take years to change. But that's why I think the protests are actually important, because unless you have protests and unless people speak up and say it's not okay, people are going to think it's okay and they can just keep on treating other people and discriminating. But now when you bring it into the limelight, it's like, hold on, this is not okay. And there's a lot big awareness now about this. So people are now becoming conscious. Even people who would do unconscious bias are now becoming conscious of the fact that they may be doing unconscious bias. And therefore, the process, this whole thing should improve. But I'm not sure. I think it's a complicated one. It's going to take years. and years. Because if you look at the history, that was over like hundreds of years. So it's not something that's going to be resolved very soon or very quickly. But it's good that we're raising awareness.
Yes, indeed, it is. It is very. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the least you can do is raise awareness. But having said that, we've seen the whole thing erupt within the last week, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys was, how divisive has BLM been? I know that's a bit of a weird question because instinctively you're thinking, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Divisive? This isn't meant to be divisive. This is supposed to unite everyone together. But I guess I'll start off, and the feeling that I've had within the last few weeks has been very mixed and very uneasy. Something hasn't been sitting right with me this whole period, and that something has been. Sorry, say that again.
And what is that?
What is that? Okay, so what happened yesterday was something that I was waiting for the last 2 weeks, and I say that because this whole thing was deemed not to fail, because I don't think it's necessarily been a failure, but it hasn't worked out the way I think most people would have expected or wanted it to work out. And we saw that yesterday. And the reason why that's happened is because I think personally that there's been too many, it wasn't organized from the beginning. And I think this thing just got out of control emotionally. I think people were very emotional. And when that happened, our sort of sense of organization, direction,
I would disagree with that.
Slipped a little bit. No, I mean, you're more than welcome to, of course. Yeah. We have to disagree with each other. We're going to have a conversation. But that's just the way I felt. I haven't felt welcomed into this debate. From last week's discussion, I felt like this isn't my problem. I should not get involved in this because my opinion doesn't matter. That's the kind of feeling that I got from last week. From last week's conversation.
No, but hold on. Why did you get this feeling? Is it because of the two individuals who came, or just generally you just don't feel
both? Generally speaking, and also the conversation that I had last week with a very powerful young lady, amazing young lady. She's very inspiring. She said some really great stuff, which made me open my eyes up a lot. But it did make me feel like this isn't my problem. I should not be getting involved. So I don't know whether you guys have seen any of that or whether you think I'm being very harsh and unfair.
Yeah, I would say that I think you're being quite harsh in terms of like. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's been disorganized. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, of course, it's based everything. Black Lives Matter was based on emotion, of course. Like people were pissed off, but they had every right to, bro. When you see so many people, now don't get me wrong, and we know that there's other issues in the world, but we're not going to discuss that because we've got the topic in hand. It'll be unfair to keep comparing this and that, so we're going to keep the topic in hand. Where you see the same amount of issues every single day, it's like every single day a new black person had died from the police force. And when you see that, bro, how can you blame someone, for example, what was going on in Minneapolis? Bro, now they're about to defund their own police force. I'm telling you, that's power to the people, and you've got to prove that's the kind of stuff, man. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's disorganized, because not only did they achieve what they want to achieve, because they got the guy done for, instead of third-degree murder, for second-degree murder, and the other 3 guys were charged for abetting. So you've got to say that. You can't say it's disorganized. And I would also say.
So I think I was mainly referring to the UK. In terms of BLM in America has been absolutely, top notch. And I couldn't be any happier than the way that it's been dealt with, because, I said this 2 weeks ago, the riots that happened, businesses that were looted was wrong. I think it was unfair to those people, those individual business people in the local area.
The videos, by the way, it wasn't actually black people. It was actually white people. There were so many videos.
Regardless, I mean, who knows what type of people did it? But my point is, institutions that were looted, government institutions that were looted, buildings that were broken. I'm all for it, brother. Do your thing, because these people are failing you. So if they're failing you, what can you do? The country's led through a democracy, which means that you need to vote whoever you want in power so that things can happen in your community. But if that's not happening, what are you meant to do? But I'm talking about specifically the UK.
I think we need this shit right now, bro. I'll be real with you. I know it might sound crazy, but we need some disruption for shit to happen. I look at it like this. That statue that got taken down in Bristol, now look how many statues are being taken down democratically. You've got to disrupt the process to actually achieve something. And this is coming from someone that actually does believe the process can work. Don't get me wrong, bro. I'm all for democracy. But
I don't think democracy will ever work.
But
not in an ideal world.
I'm not saying it works, but I'm for it. Do you know what I'm saying, bro? But in terms of like, you need to disrupt the process for shit to really happen. And if that means some shit gets violent, bro. If you look at it, for example, if you compare the BLM movement in America, they're getting shit done. Do you know what I'm saying? They're getting shit done, and all hats off to them. Violent, and bro, they've kept it. I'll be real with you though. They've kept it peaceful quite a lot. A lot of them, they've always kept it peaceful, bro. I wouldn't say it's gotten violent. So the only time the violence has happened is when white people have started reacting to this shit. Like, look at yesterday, man. Bro.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. That was a madness. Yeah. Blitz, what do you think about what my thoughts are on the movement? Am I being a bit unfair?
We'll talk about it in the UK.
Yeah, more so the UK, because, I think, if we're looking at this movement, obviously it being an American problem, I'm relatively, inspired and happy and encouraged by what's going on over there. But the way that we've been dealing with it over here, it's just been, I feel like, a bit of a mishmash. That made any sense?
I think it's important. To be honest, I've seen some unity between black people, white people, and Asian people in this country.
I don't know why I don't see that. I mean, I see it.
I think a lot of us need to do is maybe the videos that we watch, the media, whether that be through Instagram, Facebook, or whether that be any news channel. I think we'll be very careful what's shown, because sometimes the media will show you, oh look, this person being violent, or this is happening, and then they're not showing you the positive things, or everyone kneeling together, or and things like that. I think we're pushing a good movement here. Like what I said, the statues are being taken down. Even yesterday, I even saw like music artists like Stormzy and everyone out there, and that's a big influence to not just black people, but Asian people. Like listen to Stormzy or Like, a lot of people were out there yesterday in the riots. Sorry, not in the riots. Sorry, in the protest. And I feel like they're doing well. And Wes, you're saying about America not being violent. I think there's a lot of violence going on, but
there is. I meant was like, for example, the protesters, the actual BLM.
The real, I think there's a difference between protesting and rioting.
Bro. Do you know what? I think the way it's just gone in America, in terms of a lot of people trying to take opportunities, bro. That's where shit's gone south.
Yeah. Like, I don't believe in that. You said about business. I don't believe in that, because you know what? A lot of people are small businesses. They're gonna have insurance. Not all small businesses have insurance.
Still, man, like, come on, these small businesses, they're the same people as you. They're trying to make a good, honest.
I don't believe in looting and rioting and breaking down windows and ruining people's livelihood, because like. And as you can see, it's it's people from different cultures, not just from the black culture. And there's a lot of propaganda going on.
Do you know what I feel? Obviously, when people are protesting the BLM movement, just because other people are looting doesn't mean that the people looting are the BLM movement. Because
exactly.
have taken advantage of that, like they do, and they've used that as an excuse to basically turn into animals and think they can use this as an opportunity to steal. And it's never been okay. So this is what happens, is that people will always take advantage. So unless the BLM movement people who are coming to the protests actually safeguard, or actually try to do something to safeguard the businesses, or maybe work with them, I don't know, this issue is not going to get resolved, because this will keep happening. Whenever there's protests and if there are businesses around, there are thugs that will take advantage. So unless the police and BLM movement people work together to actually protect the businesses, like the businesses cannot be protected, because how can you protect businesses? People will just break in. People will just think that they could do whatever the hell they want. So I think that's the thing. So it you know, it gives the BLM movement a bad name, even though it's not the BLM movement people.
Okay. So, you know, this Black Lives Matter protest, this movement, is obviously trying to address a group of people, whether it be the racists that live amongst us, whether it be the authorities. How effective has their movement been in gaining support from? In fact, who are they? Rather than saying them, I'm going to say we, because I feel like we all are as a collective. If we're supporting this movement, we're part of it. So, who do we think we're trying to get the message across to, and has it been effective? The way that the movement's been led, has that been effective in gaining support or creating more animosity and division?
I'll tell you what it has done. It's created, well, it hasn't created, it's shown us how defensive white people will get about racism. How is it that people are asking for justice, it's so hard and has to create this tension? Like, bro, I'm sure, like, for example, like, how are you coming out, to defend statues, shouting, like, stuff like, oh, I'll piss on you, you black cunt? Like, how are you shouting stuff like that? Why is it that you're so upset, that about black people wanting some sort of justice for people dying? So what it has done is just shown how defensive white people can be about racism and how they can gaslight situations, bro. Like, honestly, man, I think that's
more right, whatever, British white people. I wouldn't say generally white people. I just think.
Come on, man, they're white people. They're all white. There was no brown people there.
No. What I'm saying is, I don't want to categorize white people. White people are all defensive and being made.
No, of course not all of them. There are lovely. I mean, I say this all the time, but I know we all hear this. But there are so many lovely. The majority of the people that I've come across in the UK have been, just decent human.
You know what? 100% they are, bro. But I'll be real with you, I've come across lovely white people, but the same lovely white people are the same closeted racists, bro. Trust me.
They're 100%.
Unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias.
100%.
But you know what, bro? I think that happens in every culture.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
Yeah, I think there's closeted racism in every kind, and it all depends where you've grown up. Like, I've grown up in a town where it's multicultural, predominantly white, blacks, Indians, Bengalis. We've got a good Bengali community as well, and I think it just depends, like, where you've grown up and what you've seen. Because I know a lot of my friends in London, their views are a little bit different to where I'm from.
Yeah, I grew up in Hackney, so I grew up mainly around black people. So, and obviously there was a strong Bengali community like in Hackney as well, and a strong Gujarati community as well. So I grew up around quite a few people, especially Turks as well, man. Turks are the best people. I'm not gonna lie, bro. They're bare generous, bro. Kebab man always sorted me out, bro.
Yeah. I mean, Lubna, can we all agree here that racism is always going to exist in society, no matter what time frame we're in? So having said that, is covert racism better than overt racism? I know that is a ridiculous statement to make and a question to make, but it's one that is very fair, because if we can all agree today that racism is always going to exist, no matter what happens, and we have to agree that, because it has happened since civilization has existed, and it's all down to the survival of the fittest. So if that's the case, then is covert racism better than overt racism?
Well, I think any kind of racism, obviously, isn't okay.
Yes, of course,
but I think, look, it's different. The thing is, if we take the statues, for example, I think, would the statues be taken down if the protest would not happen? Why have the statues not been taken down before? It's taken the protests and this whole movement for people to even think and consider taking these statues down. So the UK, for example, has moved.
Sorry, is it categorically the decision that we must take these statues down? Should they? Let's ask that question. Should these statues have been taken down?
100%.
Now they should, though. The point is now they should, because obviously the UK, how it was 100 years ago, is different now. Obviously, we're much more multicultural. So I think the government has to do a review of all these statues. And this may sound ridiculous, but unless the government does a review and takes the statues down themselves, which may, which other cultures may feel bad about races, people will take it upon themselves to do it. and then other people are going to have an issue with it. So I think if they just did the review themselves, right? Because we are a different society now to what we were 100 years ago. So to think it's okay maybe 100 years ago to put these statues up, it's not okay anymore. So they just need to do their own review, take them down. If we've got a problem with it, then people are just going to take it in their own hands to do it like they're doing. And then other people, like you're saying, maybe predominantly white people may have an issue with that. Because they'll be like, this is my country. We put these statues up, and a lot of the people that you guys are taking the statues down of have actually done good things for our culture, our race. So why should we now take it down because it's got, had a negative impact on your one? So I think the government needs to do this whole review, and it needs to be a massive process, although it sounds really ridiculous, but they need to do the review, I think, of the whole society, statues, monuments, all of this, and consider what they need to take down.
Doesn't that contradict, though? I'm going to play devil's advocate. Doesn't that contradict freedom of speech, freedom of expression, living in a democratic country, and for the purposes of educating the masses? By removing these statues, we're now basically saying that there is a right and a wrong. And we, the masses, will tell you what the right and wrong is. We will enforce that within society.
Okay, so can I ask you a question? But is it okay to have Hitler's statue anywhere? He's done good things as well, right?
Should I honestly answer that? I'll be 100% honest, and judge me if you want. But if somebody wants Hitler's statue to be up, I think if the masses decide that they want Hitler's statue up, then it should be up. But for the purposes of, you can interpret this however you want. But the way that I see it is, a statue isn't there to be glorified, isn't there to be.
That's exactly what it's there for, bro.
That is exactly what it's there for. It's for memory. So people see that 100 years. The statue that was taken down, I didn't even know who that guy was. But because there's a statue there, 100 years later, even I know, okay, this is a guy, he did X, Y, Z. So the whole point of the statue is for people to remember these people because they did some good things. Now, if they're not worth remembering because they did shit stuff, why would the statue be on?
But why shouldn't it be worth remembering? Because you know this guy now from that statue being there. So you know that he was a racist from whatever century it was, who was a slave trader, slave owner, and our society teaches that that form of life, slavery, racism is wrong. You've now learnt something, and you now have the opportunity to have that debate on this platform about that very statue.
Well, no, I think the school and education system has a big part to play in terms of how history is taught. And I think coming back to the whole racism question over, covert and all of that kind of stuff, I think, and protests and all this continue, blah, blah, blah. I think the education system has a big part to play. The way we are educated, like even if you think about when you went to school, how are you taught about history? How are you taught about Black history? How are you taught about these issues? And,
very poorly, I would say.
I know, but a lot of people concentrate on the religious studies, but they completely ignore history and the way it's taught. So I think all this stuff needs to be taught properly in history. And for example, Hitler, was he a good person, bad person? What did he do? That is for the history class. But I think educationally, our education system is not strong enough. No, it's not. Generally, even ignoring racism issues.
But that's the point.
Even to get the basics right.
That's the point. If the education system is so flawed, these statues being there, isn't that a great way to teach the masses, like, this is what happened, and this guy.
The statue can be there, and people can piss on it if they want, if that's the reason to have the statue on. Yeah. Because that's what's going to end up happening anyway, right? Like, people are now taking some statues down of people, and other people are just pissing over other statues. But I think, what's the point of having that then? What is the point? That's not the side of society I want to see.
You know what's mad? The guy that pissed on the statue was there to protect it, apparently, as well. So.
Wow. Okay.
You got arrested today.
Yeah, he got arrested. Yeah, I know.
Do you know what?
Yeah, going back to the education system, like being a teacher myself.
Yeah,
I think, Lubna, you're right. There are a lot of things that are not taught, or certain parts. But the thing is, that comes from the government, like the national curriculum, everything like that. That's from the government, and I think protests and things like this might actually make the government rethink or analyze the actual national curriculum. And actually,
I know, but hold on a second. If you are a teacher, for example, and you're actually in the system, right? You're in the business of education, but is it not also up to you and your responsibility to rock the boat? And if the government is not giving you something, and if it's not working, then actually rock the boat and say, hold on, no, we need to change things and make changes. So I think the teachers should not just wait for the government to
100%.
They need to rock the boat themselves as well.
100%. And there are unions out there that are trying to rock the boat. What I'm trying to say is, You know, when something's in the media, right? So there's a lot of media pressure. So right now the government's facing a lot of media pressure, and this is what helps rocking the boat. And this is what helps decisions to be made. Not saying, oh, tomorrow they're gonna start putting Malcolm X and Nelson Mandela in history. You know, they don't talk about that much, but it could play a part. I'm saying these protests and riots could play a part where, you know, you might see in the future where a lot of the slave trade history from America being introduced, or, you know, slave trade passing through. There weren't much slave trade in the United Kingdom. It all passed through because a lot of it went from Africa to America. We were like a pit stop. But in terms of, yeah.
I think there was actually quite a lot of slave traders in the UK, wasn't there? In terms of actually, there was a lot of slaves because when was slavery abolished in the UK?
I think this is the thing. I mean, obviously, I don't know. If I'm going to be honest, I don't know the history properly about the slave trade, and I think what this discussion is showing, a lot of us are actually unsure, even amongst ourselves. So we don't even know, and we've gone through the education system here, but the point is, we are unsure ourselves of what the actual history is. We just know, we've heard of these terminologies, slave trade, you know, blacks were used and all that. We don't actually know the facts. We don't know even about our own country, forget America. But I would say, can I ask you a question? So you said you're a teacher and there are unions out there. Are you part of the unions?
I'm not part of a union myself. I was before, but, you know,
okay. Can I just ask you a question? So what topic did you actually teach when you were a teacher?
I'm teaching maths.
Maths. Okay, fine. Good. I was going to say, if you're a history teacher, the second question is, what would it take for you to, you know, this whole racism issue, and how history is taught, example. So what would it take for you as a teacher to do more about this?
Sorry. Oh,
she just muted herself.
Oh, sorry. So I said, what would it take you as a teacher to rock the boat and to try to get the education system in terms of history and the way racism is taught? Because I know that you're a maths teacher, but I think teachers do need to take a bit more responsibility, because you guys are on the front line. You're speaking to the students, you're teaching them. So what would it take for you guys to rock the boat? Because I think it will take the actual teachers to maybe even do protests like the Black Lives Matter movement, to be fair. Because I think unless you do that, people are not going to take you or this whole topic serious enough. We're just going to go around in circles.
I agree with you. I mean, yeah, there's things that teachers can do, but you got to understand, we're quite small fish in the education system. And yeah, like, you know, there are things that we can do, maybe protests and things like that. But to be fair with you, we're in 2020, and me being a teacher saying this is, everyone could educate themselves, whether that be from
exactly
20-year-olds. You don't need school to be
you know what they say, right? If you think you're too small to make a difference, stay in a room with
no one's too small to make a difference. What I'm trying to say is, there are teachers out there. There's discussions that take. I've had discussions as well, and, you know, there are people. There probably will be people protesting. What I'm trying to say is, we don't need to wait for that. You know, I'm 31 years old, and, you know, inshallah, in the future, I'll get married and have kids. And if my kids are not getting taught these things, I'll teach my kids. Yeah. Or, you know, teenagers right now, they can educate themselves. I'm not saying, you know, Google everything, but really and truly, if you look at 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, all of them got iPads and tablets. They educate. You can help be educated. You don't need school to learn about these things. I think yes, it does need to be introduced in schools. 100% agree. There are things that we can do.
I was going to say, one of the beautiful things that have come out of BLM is the educating factors, the mass amount of information that we've received, and things that, you know, people would have known. Like, obviously, it's common knowledge for me that Winston Churchill was a massive racist, and he slaughtered thousands of people in thousands of our people in
millions, bro, not thousands, millions.
That's in the Bay of Bengal.
His policies, it was because of his policies, his wartime policies, and they actually reduced supplies to like famine, the Bay of Bengal. Yes, that's what caused the famine. And obviously, bruv, this is what I wanted to ask you, actually, to be fair. Like, because you said you were playing devil's advocate, but how would you, let's bring you back to Farhan, innit? How would you feel if given your opinion, if your opinion is still the same on that, how would you feel knowing that there's a statue of Winston Churchill, a man who compared your people to animals, who cut off supplies to your people and let millions die of starvation because of the famine? How would you feel knowing that his statue is right next to you?
Generally speaking, his statue being there doesn't do any effect to my life, doesn't do any effect to me, doesn't make me feel any certain way, because I'm big enough to allow a statue to be there, generally speaking. However, of course, I am more so happy now that his statue was there than before, because his statue being there has shed light to all of this information that we find ourselves with today. The masses have been educated in 24 hours about this guy and what he did. Whereas the misconception was that this guy was a war hero, he won us the war, he saved us from the Nazis. None of those are actually true. If you look at
hold on, but when you say us, the us in 2020 is different to the us that was here 100 years ago. So the us here 100 years ago were white people. For them, yeah, he was a savior. But the us in 2020 is different. And to be fair, it's not about. For example, you're right? His statue probably does nothing for you, nothing to you. It doesn't make a difference to my life either. However, what impact does that have mentally on predominantly people coming predominantly from a white background? Does it make them feel more that they are more superior race-wise? So I think it's not the fact that how is it making ethnic minorities feel having his statue, because I didn't even know, to be honest, about his racist past. It's what impact is it having, maybe even unconsciously, to the white community who see his statue and know all the stuff that he did, and they think it's okay and acceptable still now because his statue is still there. So it's the impact that it's having on both races.
The impact that it has on white people, for example, if you look at it, every single person that they have looked up to, whether it's a king or a prime minister, whatever, was either warmongering, was a scoundrel, was this and that. Look, for example, I'll give you a prime example. King Henry VIII, he always divorced his wife, decided to become the leader of the church because his what's it called? The priest didn't let him get married again. Do you know what I'm saying? So stuff like that. Look at even Queen Elizabeth I, the woman was just absolutely crazy.
She was barbaric, she was brutal.
Bruv, she was barbaric, do you know what I'm saying? So you got to look at it, So I think to what Lubna's saying, the reason why they've got all these people, they held them in high regard, because they haven't got anyone to actually look up to. For example, if you look at the black community in America, let's say black people from America, they've got people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King to look up to, do you know what I'm saying? All right, they've got those kind of people, whereas people in America look up to George Washington or people like that. Do you know what I'm saying? And whereas us looking up to Winston, not us, I'll say the UK looking up to Winston Churchill. So you can't, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. And look, I understand that these white right-wing racists, they probably use people they definitely use people like Winston Churchill to increase their level of patriotism that they have in this country. But where does it stop?
No, but I feel like they use that as a means of I think that's an excuse. The right wingers and the football hooligans that came out yesterday, I feel like they used Winston Churchill as an excuse.
They don't even know the history.
They don't even know shit.
They don't even know the history. They're just coming for the violence, the race. They don't know the history. They're not doing it for anything.
So I'll go back then to the original question that I asked, which was, how divisive has the BLM protest been? Because from yesterday, we can make a conclusion of, maybe a very weak conclusion, but albeit a conclusion of the BLM protest being quite divisive, because now the covert racists are now coming out overtly. I even saw a video yesterday of some guy saying, well, at least before, we were racist, but we weren't open about it, and now we've been forced to come out of our shelves and come out here and be openly racist.
No, I think that's a positive thing, bro, because then that shows you the
colours,
the actual reality of British culture. Well, a lot of people in Britain, and I don't think it's been a bad thing. I think what's happening is good. I just don't believe in people burning cars. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in the looting. But the whole peaceful protest, I think a lot of people have learned a lot from this, man. A lot of people are learning the history of this country, the history in America. I think a lot of people are learning about.
Okay, I agree with that, but we know that our media, our mainstream media, will find any excuse, whatever ethnic minority group it may be, they'll find any excuse to turn the masses against you. And that's what happened last week when we saw that bike being thrown at that horse and everything going crazy outside in Whitehall. So that's all good and well. But do you see where I'm coming from? Like,
no, I'd say I don't think it's become divisive. Sorry to not to cut you off. Just to answer this question real quick, and then obviously it hasn't been divisive, but it's exactly what Blitz has just said. It's just it shows the real face of white Britain or racist Britain, to put it more better. It's just showing racist Britain, bro. It's showing them.
We know Britain is racist.
No,
I've known Britain was racist since I can remember.
For example, bro, there's a lot of people that live in a bubble, especially even English people. Let's say covert, or let's say subtle, minimal,
passive-aggressive
racists. Yeah, let's even say that they've now come out, bro. They're open. They're out here. Or even let's just say the white people that are actually blind to racism. Let's say they're not racist themselves, or they're blind to racism. They can now see, do you know what? These lunatics are actually like proving the BLM protests are there for a reason. Mm-hmm. It shows correctly why it's here. So, bro, I wouldn't say it's divisive. I'd say it's just shown Britain's true colours, and it just shows how long it will take for racism to end, and for anyone that's of an ethnic minority, any skin colour, to actually be accepted by white people.
Aren't you afraid though that this is going to boil over? This has the potential to become something really ugly.
It's only because the white people let it become ugly. I think
it needs to become ugly sometimes. Look, the whole covert and overt thing, right? Yeah. I would say it's a good thing because you can't fight something that you can't see. It's like if it's an invisible enemy, that's more difficult. Exactly. So if it's an invisible enemy, which it has been, right, for many years, I think it's more difficult to fight. But now that people are coming out or are being compelled to come out, that's actually a good thing, because people can actually see how big of an issue this actually is, and the reason why this is happening. Because some people just don't get it. They're like, oh, why are people doing protests? Why are they complaining? This is why, because they just don't get it. But can I just say, if I flip it around, right? If we were living in Pakistan or Bangladesh, and there were heroes that were heroes for Bangladeshi people, Pakistani people, and their statues were up, but those individuals whose statues are up actually did maybe not so nice things to some other races. Well, how would you feel about statues being taken down then?
I wouldn't feel.
Because we need to remember, it's easy for us to live here and
to be honest, religiously, go on.
No, go on, bro.
Now you said religiously, I don't think there should be statues up anyway. Like,
I agree, 100%. It's like idol worshipping, isn't it?
Like in any country that's predominantly, I know India and Bangladesh, and back in the days there was a lot of Hinduism, predominantly Hindus. But what I'm trying to say, statues now in like Bangladesh, Pakistan, or any country that's predominantly statues anyway, all of them should be taken down.
Agreed, man.
Okay, no, but what I'm trying to say is, if you put yourself in a white person's position, I know it's difficult because we're not white, but if we were white ourselves living in this country and we saw statues being taken down of someone maybe who was a hero for our race, not necessarily for other races, how would we feel about that? And I think we do need to have a bit of empathy for white people, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, this is a white country and this is a Christian country and we're living here. I know that a lot of us were born here. No, but look, we were born here. Right? Whether we didn't, we didn't ask our parents to be born here, but we were born here.
I get where you come from.
I can't accept that. I can't accept it. I'm sorry,
It's a white country. It's a Christian country.
Fine.
I will say, let me say something.
That's a fact. There's nothing to accept. That's a fact.
If in Bangladesh there's a statue of someone treating minority culture in Bangladesh, if there was a statue and we were praising that man, I'll be the first one to say take it down. I would be like, for example, if I even see a statue of anyone in Bangladesh, bro, I'll be just like Blitz said as well, like I'd be compelled to not even have it there anyway. But if it was in your case, Lubna, where you're saying that if there is a statue of someone that's killed minorities or murdered them or whatever, and was a massive racist towards these minorities, 100% take it down. Why would you want?
I would disagree. I don't think you would. Sorry, because the reason is how often we've been walking. I know I completely disagree with you because a lot of the people are just walking in their life and doing their daily life. How many times do you know or think about how many times have up until now at this point have we stopped and think, oh, Winston Churchill's statue is there and he's done negative stuff? We haven't really thought about it. We've just been going in our daily life.
No, my university is right next to there, so I've always thought about it, and you don't understand that. For me, my degree and my dissertation, was in politics and international relations. So I'm very active in the history of politics, and I'll tell you something. My dissertation was on the title was called Bangladesh, a Forgotten Nation, which talks about the famine, which talks about Winston Churchill, which talks about the atrocities that we faced against Pakistan, which shows what the bad side towards our past presidents. So I will be the first. That's why I said you can't say that. No, you wouldn't think that. Do you get what I'm saying?
You're obviously more educated than a normal person. I guess I assumed that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, me personally, I can't speak on people you can't speak on people that can or can't do something. That's assumption. That's implying that they will do it or they won't do it. You can't do that. I'm saying me personally. Blitz even said it as well. Him personally, because of religious reasons, he's not going to have statues there. I agree with him as well. Religiously, bruv, I ain't having no flipping. I don't want to see no statue in my home nation that is predominantly Muslim. I don't want to see no. It's essentially idol worshipping. I don't want no statues of anyone, bruv. Even if I was to die and I do something historically impactful, hell no, please don't give me a statue. Don't give anyone a statue. Bun that. But me speaking personally, in terms of as a person, if I put religion to the side, no, if there is someone that's a racist and they've treated someone very wrongly, don't you dare put up a statue or even take that statue down.
But can I say, but this is you being born in UK and obviously.
I understand. But look, I sort of get what Lubna's coming from. You got to think, right? But like, there's people here that really love their history, right? Yeah. And we are in England, and we're born here. Listen, I'm proud to be Muslim. I'm proud to be British. I'm proud to be Bangladesh. I'm proud to be.
Talk for yourself.
What is it?
Speak for yourself.
That's what I keep saying. Because I am. But I understand where some people might be hurt. But hold on, this is our history. It's our old prime minister or something like that. But I think those people initially, they will be hurt. Initially, they might be like, "Oh, these people are just taking our statues down." But then I think things like this actually make people want to research. Like you said, they don't know about the person in Bristol, right? So now they're doing a little bit more research into it, and they might be thinking, actually, you know what? Yeah, that person doesn't need to be taken out. Same with Winston Churchill. A lot of people think, Winston Churchill, he won the war for us. Yeah, brilliant. But then now a lot of people do research on Winston Churchill and think, okay, cool. You know what? This guy actually was responsible for killing millions of people. So it's just like...
That's history. That's very difficult to come across.
Can I just say this? I'm sorry to say, but there's two sides to every story, and every race thinks that they're a victim. Every race thinks they're a victim, and anyone who has, supported that particular race, they will see that person as a hero. For example, you mentioned like atrocities done by Pakistan to Bangladesh, which I'm not aware of because I'm not educated in the history sector at all, and this is my bad because I should really look into the history. But what I'm saying is every race thinks that they see themselves as a victim and would always see the other party as the person, the culprit, right? But if you look at it from the other race's perspective, they will say the other person was doing the atrocities and we were just protecting ourselves. So I think this is two sides to every story.
That history is one way, because there's no way that in India or Bangladesh or in the Bay of Bengal, they didn't have that power to affect United Kingdom was the strongest colony for a long time, and we were strongest country maybe in the world.
They were the colonial power in the world. You're right.
Yeah. So,
but do you know what? They're not the only one. There were the Mongol Empire. There's millions of people and empires that have come, and they've all done atrocities. But obviously, we're living in UK with white people, so we're just concentrating on that one. But even Arabs, Muslims, we've done it as well. We've killed people who've gone, and that's how you build empires, by killing other people.
Let me tell you this, that of course those are how empires exist. Now let me ask you, very recent times, because in the same era that Winston Churchill is, you had the infamous Adolf Hitler. And like you said, is there a statue of Adolf Hitler? No, there isn't. Even though he done very well for the GDP of Germany at the time.
Yeah.
were actually
The guy was a genius, but when it came to his ethnic, his ideas about ethnic cleansing, that's when it all went pear-shaped. Look, this is what I wanted to say.
But he killed his own people. And the Jewish community, although they were quite probably small in Germany, comparatively to the normal German people, they're quite strong. I would say that in terms of culture and the religion. So they're not going to have Hitler's statue anywhere. They're going to make sure there's no Hitler statue.
The guy was not even German. That's the funny thing about it.
He wasn't even German.
He weren't even German. So whoever he was killing, he wasn't killing anyone of his own race. So if you look at it, the guy was just trying to build what he believed was a super race and wipe out anyone that stood in the way, but predominantly he wanted to get rid of Jewish people that were doing very well in Europe at the time. No matter where you went in Europe, Jewish people were doing well, whether it be Germany or Amsterdam, or Holland, wherever you name it. And that's what he was really like. I don't know why. Obviously, if you look into whatever, I don't know, but the guy was so against it. And him building a super race that he didn't even look like. He didn't even look like that as well.
I was going to say that he doesn't qualify for his own specification and criteria. So I was going to say exactly the same point.
Literally, but so obviously, of course, to have someone, but imagine they had someone like Hitler, a statue of Hitler. Do you get what I'm saying? And I'll be real, I see Winston Churchill in the same form as I see Adolf Hitler. Probably maybe Adolf Hitler a lot more worse because of the Holocaust. But bro, or sis, whatever, Winston Churchill, regardless or not, the guy should not be having a statue after what he done.
I know, but can I just say you are maybe unique because you have that knowledge, because you've studied and you've done a dissertation even, but a very normal person has not got that knowledge that you have. And unless we educate people in society through the education system, that's not
going to happen. But they have it now. That's the point I'm making.
It should take us to go to university and do a dissertation to learn about this. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's too late by then. Because a lot of racism you learn when you're in school, when you're in high school, when you were in, I don't know, nursery or whatever, right? So the point is, right, we can't all wait until we do a dissertation in university. It will take people like you who have the education and who have the knowledge to actually educate the rest of us. But can I ask, what have you done? So you've done the dissertation. How have you taken that forward? Have you, because I like you said, I don't want to judge you, so maybe you have done stuff. What have you done? You've got all this knowledge. What have you done?
Following the research that I've done, I actually did a university-wide talk based on the dissertation and tried to teach people the history of Bangladesh when it was East Bengal and then became East Pakistan and then became Bangladesh as it's known today. I've done that. I've also held a protest against the Bangladesh High Commission in I think it's called Grosvenor. No, it's not Grosvenor Square. In West London, actually.
South Kensington, yeah.
South Kensington, yeah. Sorry, probably thanks for in South Kensington. So I've actually taken that knowledge forward and done a lot as I could to educate people. So that's what I've done.
Okay, look,
we can turn this into Black Lives Matter to Bangladeshi Lives Matter.
No, we won't do that because there's no point. That just eradicates the Black Lives Matter movement. So
no, but this is the whole argument that I was making. Even the title Black Lives Matter is divisive in its form, and we saw that yesterday. I mean,
it's divisive if you feel like.
But the masses will feel like it because the whole world runs on nationalism.
Because they never
something about human beings.
But they've never said
rooted in our bloods that we have to be nationalistic.
Bro.
We have to be in love from our where we come from, our roots, and I don't understand it, and that's why. So when you ask me questions like, "Do I feel a certain way about a statue?" You're asking the wrong person because I'm so anti-nationalism.
Can I just say? Do you know? I know, but can I just say, for example, we obviously born here. We have a liking or what's the word? We have sympathy or something towards Pakistan, Bangladesh, or whatever, because our roots are from there. But white people don't have that. This is their roots. This is where they were born. They have no other roots. This is their everything. So they're feeling, we need empathy as well, right? We're trying to point fingers at white people, say they don't have empathy. Do we have empathy for them? We're living in the country. It's a Christian country.
I shouldn't need to have empathy for them. They've got white privilege.
This is the issue, that we all think we don't need to have empathy for each other. I think we're also the cause of the problem.
Empathy for what?
Yes.
No,
we have
what reason?
Responsibility.
If I say something, I don't think we need to have empathy. The reason why I don't have empathy towards the British history, because their history is made up of stealing from our culture. They have thrived off
That's a very good point that you make there, actually.
Their British history. What is their history? Their history is killing, looting, murdering, taking over nations, including.
But how is that the fault? But how is that the fault of the people living now? The white people living now. How is that their fault?
Because a lot of them are well off than our people back home.
How is that their fault? The millennials being born now, the white millennials being born now, how is it that their fault? If they're born into wealth because of their history, how is that their fault?
That's not their fault. This is what I'm saying.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault.
I don't have an issue with them. I have an issue with their history. And that's why I have no empathy towards their history or their statues. By all means, like, look.
But do you have empathy towards them? Forget their history. Do you have empathy towards them? They're born into something that they didn't know. We could have been born white easily, right? We could have inherited all of this stuff. How is it my fault if I'm white and a millennial, right? We had this discussion about millennials. How is it my fault? But I would say empathy is really important. Even our religion teaches this empathy, and we can't expect empathy from other people if we're not going to bother giving us. This is the issue. Everyone thinks they're right. Everyone thinks they're the victim. No one wants to listen to each other. I think when none of us are
what are you referring to when you're talking about empathy? Like,
that's what I need to know as well. Yeah. What do you mean?
I'm saying that we are living in this country, and we do need to have empathy for the majority of, like, 80% of the black people who have unconscious bias.
I'm gonna have to go get it on you.
As well. But
let me respond.
It's up to us to educate them as well.
No, hold on, please. I just need to interject really quickly, yeah? Unless you're paying my bills for me, why should I have empathy for you? I was born and raised in this country. I've got a British passport. So what do you mean empathy, bruv? Do you know what I mean?
Let me give the response to this, yeah? Let me give the response to this. In 1943, there was something called the Bengal famine, okay? The Bengal famine had millions of Bengalis die of starvation, okay? Now, where was the empathy when we needed supplies and food from the host nation that was our colonial power? When we were the colonial entity of England, of white Britain, of the great British Empire, as they say. Where was that empathy? Where was the empathy when African countries were being torn apart by France, by Portugal, okay, by United Kingdom, by America? That was the UK as well at the same time. Now let me ask you, where was the empathy then? You're asking me to have empathy.
I would say it doesn't matter. The point is, just because they are not giving us empathy doesn't mean that we don't. What's the difference between them and us then? There's no difference. How can we argue?
Yeah, but man doesn't need to give you empathy. I've got a British passport. Why do I need to give you empathy? I'm as British as you. Okay, my roots
You're
come
not
from
as
Asia.
British as them. You're not, because you're not white. You're not, you don't have that.
What makes you qualified to be British? Not by the skin color. And this is the real issue here, isn't it? The real issue is race again, and it's deep rooted in our society, and we're never going to get rid of it. But that's
you can never be completely British, because you will always have sympathy for a second country, and that is Bangladesh. Whereas white people don't have that. They only have sympathy for their country. There's a massive difference. You've divided your sympathy, you've divided your loyalty between two countries. Whereas white people have not done that. They are 100% white, English, British. You do not have that. Neither do I, because that's what I'm saying.
And we'll never have sympathy for Britain. Let me tell you why I won't have sympathy for Britain is because I have never been made to feel like I am British. And until then, I will never have sympathy, empathy, any sort of attachment for Great Britain. Because
the only thing British about me is my passport, but even that's red.
There you go. That's it.
But then can I just say, if a white person would be listening to this, would they not? I know this is horrible. People have said this to me as well. Why don't you go back and go? Why don't you go to another country? I've had this said to me since I was a child.
Let me tell you now. Let me tell you now.
People can argue that and say, why are you even living here then?
I am on the verge of looking to relocate to another country. So there you go, my friend.
Which country is that? Can I ask you which country is that?
It will be one of a few. Maybe Canada, Singapore, maybe Kuwait, Qatar, maybe one of those countries. Who knows? But anywhere other than here, because look, I have never been made to feel welcome, and especially like after what I witnessed yesterday, enough is enough. People are out on the streets defending statues, for goodness sake.
How
did we get to this point?
I'm just been listening. A lot of people tell me I don't listen much. I'm listening now, but basically, I just want to say, I think all of us are gonna have different views. I think everyone's been maybe raised differently. Everyone's come from different backgrounds, and I can see where all of you lot are coming from. But to say to say that you don't. Did you say you feel British? Did you say you feel British?
Me?
Yeah. Or did you
No,
say?
I don't feel British. I don't feel it. But look. When people ask me these questions, you're asking the wrong person because I'm so like.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's gonna look.
I don't have an identity, bro. I don't feel like I belong anywhere.
My friends at work.
You are not the wrong person to ask because we all feel that. I think a lot of us are confused. This is why people say British born confused this. It sounds cringeworthy. BBCD, British born confused this. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. So it's not that you keep saying, "Oh, you're the wrong person to ask," but the way you feel, a lot of us feel. But we don't.
But man will never pledge allegiance to anyone.
We just don't come out.
No. I think what I'm trying to say is all of us probably have different opinions because we grew up. Like, for example, me, like at school, I had a lot of British white friends and black friends or Bengalis, whatever. And even at work, I work in Milton Keynes. Now, Milton Keynes is quite multicultural, and a lot of my friends at work, they're white, but they've never ever made me feel not welcome. Not saying that, workplace racism banter doesn't take place or anything like that, because it does happen. And like you said, a lot of people are covertly racist. But I sort of understand what Lubna is saying, as in empathy in general. We should have empathy for each other because what the people that are born in the last 30, 40 years, they're not responsible for what happened in the 40s. And we shouldn't go against them. And then Farhan, what you're saying about what happened yesterday, I don't think majority of Britain can be represented by far right movement or people like Tommy Robinson and his crew.
You see, this is the problem.
I think that's a false statement.
But do you know what?
Lubna, go on.
We've got people like Piers Morgan who are saying that the statues being taken down are wrong. Now, he's not necessarily far right? Because he takes Asian people's side many times. So, but he's saying it's wrong. We've got Lord Sugar, for example. I'm going to have to quote him because he's on my Twitter, right? So he's saying it's wrong as well. So the point is, it's not just the far right. It is celebrities, people in the public eye who don't see themselves as far right, and they are saying it's wrong, and they have a following as well. So if they're normal people and other white people can see these normal people are saying it's wrong, then they will see it as wrong as well.
Look, this might be a little bit biased from my part, and I guess
before you go into your bias, I just want to say this for the record: Piers Morgan is the biggest closeted racist that has ever come along.
Exactly. Hold on. Pause. This is the point that I want to make. Your argument that the majority of Britain is not racist, I would have to disagree with that, because from my experience from your everyday layman, you can see through it, bruv. This is what I'm talking about. Covert racism. Covert racism exists. Bias exists. I am a second-class citizen to anyone who's white.
But which one of us said that Britain is not racist?
No, I'm not saying no one said Britain is racist. What I'm saying is I can't have empathy for a group of people who look at me like I'm below them because my roots are from elsewhere. Now, I'll be honest with you. The majority of people that were there yesterday, I've probably got better qualifications than them, a better career than them, a better deductive reasoning than them. But yet, I am seen as someone who is other.
But is this, can I just say, is this not an opportunity? The fact that whatever a lot of the history that happened 100 years ago, we're not really in that. We have the opportunity of educating the millennials who are white, coming from a white background, to educate them so they don't make the same mistakes as
this is the argument that I made.
Ancestors did. But if we just fight, if we just move country, if we just argue, if we don't have empathy,
fam, I've had enough, man. I can't deal with it no more.
Children will have this issue as well.
How much more are you going to suck out of me? I can't do it no more. I can't give another inch of myself to this country because it's done nothing for me, even through this lockdown.
I would say that's very wrong.
The Chancellor let me down. The government let me down.
It's a good country. It is overall good country comparatively to other places that we could have been born. I would say I'm grateful that I was born here. No, sorry. I'm grateful that I was born here. I'm not saying, obviously, look, I've had probably the most racism experience out of all of you guys. Now, I don't know the racism that you guys are saying.
I mean, look, I can't say no.
What has the experience been? What has the experience been? What has the experience been?
Chill. Lubna, chill. I'm sorry, yeah. Look, you can't say that. How can you say you've experienced...
Well, then tell me. What has the experience been of racism?
That's not what the discussion is. So you can't just come out and say, I've had the most racism against you. I was born in fucking...
I said I probably have.
Hold on. Let us speak, Lubna, because you've said quite a lot. Let us speak now, okay? Like, bruv, I live in Essex now.
Yeah, trust me, I was going to say that.
Chill out racism. Me and Farhan live in Essex. Bruv, Blitz lives up in Northamptonshire, yeah? I guarantee you racism is quite high.
Yeah, of course.
There you go. So you can't say that, oh yeah, because of this or because of that. Listen, you can't say that at all. All right?
I said probably. I said probably because a lot of the people that I meet, I have experienced the most racism. That's why I said probably. I'm not saying factually. I said probably.
But then I'm telling you, you can't say that. You can't even say probably I've had it. You can't even say that.
Well, I have because that's no, but I can say that. But now you're judging me because this is my experience. This is the experience that I've had. Have you had a pork's head put out on your car? Have you had a pig's head? Have you had a pig's head put on your car? Have you had a pig's head outside your house?
What I'm trying to say is, okay, you don't know what I've been through. I'm not here to share my racist experience like that. Farhan ain't, Blitz ain't. So just because you face these kind of things doesn't mean we face so much. And you can't say that your racism is worse than what racism we faced. It's not right.
Yeah. The underlying message is racism is racism. This is the message that I want to get across to you. And I want to put everything into perspective through this analogy, right? Not even an analogy, but when I step out of my door, I don't want to be behaving in a certain way because I'm scared that certain man will judge me. So when I'm walking down the street and I'm walking in a certain way or I'm looking a certain way, I shouldn't need to feel that way in order to feel validated. Because when I go to the post office to post a certain package and I'm with my pops, I'm with my mum, I shouldn't feel insecure or I shouldn't feel on edge about what they're going to do, what they're going to say, meaning my parents. And how someone else is going to look at us because they're behaving in XYZ kind of way. And the moment that happens, bruv, pack your suitcase, bye-bye. I can't do it, fam. How do you expect me to live in a country where I need to watch every single step that I make? Can
I just say,
I don't care.
Playing devil's advocate, how is this a white person's problem? And I'm not white. I am Pakistani. And like you said, obviously we've all experienced different experiences of racism and we're not here to share our experiences. Fine, fair enough. But how is this a white person's problem?
This is a white person's problem.
How is how you're feeling a white person's problem? How is how I'm feeling?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say the majority this isn't a white person problem per se, but the majority of sort of racial bias, discrimination, passive aggressiveness that I've received has been from the white community. Now,
I know, but the point is, if we're going to overcome this,
but the main community that affects the way that I live are the white people.
I know, but if we're going to overcome this, there needs to be, firstly, white people need to be educated in terms of what impact this is having on us. I think I've cut off. Hello?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, there's something weird happening on my computer. So I think the point is, again, I am obviously not white. So why would I say, how is this a white person's problem? I'm just being honest because you need to look at, if we're going to win this thing, we need to look at it from the other person's perspective. How is this a white person's problem? Why would they care how we're feeling and how we're not, right? I'm trying to sort this out. I could sit here and say, oh, this is wrong and pull the statue down, do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But how is this going to solve anything? I am more interested in solutions. And I think unless we have empathy, we're not going to understand how the white person thinks. If we don't understand how they think, we can't win them over. There's no incentive for them to really change anything. Then is there? How we feel is nothing to do with, it's like how they feel has nothing to do with me. We need to understand things from the other person's perspective as well.
Is this something where we can make a change? Can racism be defeated?
No.
Are we able to see a system, a country, a nation, a community where racism doesn't exist? I personally don't think so. I don't think we will ever see in our lifetimes or anyone else's lifetime a period of time where racism doesn't exist. So I go back to my question. Is covert racism better than overt racism?
Yes, I think covert racism is basically waiting for the opportunity to become overt. That's what it is. Just waiting on the sidelines. And then once you see everyone else coming out, that's when you come out. That's what covert racism is. So
what you're saying is we're going to be going around in a circle forever and there's nothing really we can do about it.
I mean, we could do as much as we can to try. I'm not saying we can't do anything. We can obviously protest. If it needs to get violent, it can get violent. Obviously, I'm not saying looting. Looting is the last thing. And looting and rioting, but if shit needs to happen between us and the police or whoever, this shit's got to happen.
See, I don't know where I stand from that sort of position because for me, violence perpetuates other things, like the general public will witness it and the white people will witness it, and they'll be like, look at these mongrels, look at these
But then you'll get episodes
etc.
like yesterday. You'll get episodes like yesterday
Yeah.
where, you know, where the hooligans came out and started beefing the police. And you know,
But that's so dangerous for me. That's so dangerous for me because now they've got a mainstream media who's put them on the front page, and now people who are on the border, on the bridge, saying, I don't know how I feel about this situation. They'll see that and they'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I think they're doing the right thing.
Wait, do you know what? I don't know. For me, I feel like if I answer the question that you said, I think racism just ain't gonna end, bro. Like they'll find a way to put us down each and every way, bro. But we will do our best to fight it. The fight never stops. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's what it is.
So, all right, this has been a really insightful conversation. Lubna, I know you need to go soon, so we're going to wrap up soon. If you do need to go at any time, you're more than welcome to just obviously say bye to us. But I do want to move on to quarantine very, very quickly and, you know, not spend as much time as possible. By the way, the conversation has been fucking amazing. So well done to you guys. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to say well done. It's a bit mad to say well done, isn't it? It makes you feel like a little boy. Thank you for the conversation. It's been really, really insightful. I think this has been one of the best episodes that we've recorded.
Can I just say at this point, before you start the next topic, I'm going to have to drop off.
That's fine.
Childcare issues, unfortunately. I would have loved to stay, but thank you so much for having me. It was really insightful, and I appreciate all of your comments and
Lubna, thank you very much because you've made a lot of effort to come into the show, and I know we've been back and forth for when you can come on and whatnot, but thank you very much. Your sort of comments, messages, and everything that you've said has been amazing. I hope one day that we can meet up for a coffee or whatever. And I hope to obviously see you soon sometime.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Lubna.
And apologies if I if my
no, don't be silly. We don't need to hear that.
I was being honest and direct.
You ain't got to apologize for being honest. That's the last thing. That's the last thing.
Yeah, that's long.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye, Lubna. Okay.
Bye.
Sick. Right. So, and then there was free.
You've got me for 20 minutes.
All right, cool. Yeah. So we'll wrap up. No worries. I just want to talk about lockdown really, really quickly. We're seeing the end of lockdown coming into place, and certain countries are starting their phase 1 of reopening. So New Zealand recorded 0 cases for the first time in their country's I was going to say history, but it's been a very short history. New York began phase 1 opening. And I want to know what society is going to be like after post-COVID-19. What do we think is going to happen? Because, I mean, we saw yesterday people are, you know, acting like coronavirus isn't around. But is that what's going to happen after coronavirus passes? Because a lot of people are saying how size is going to change forever. People are going to get 2 meter distance.
Yeah, like even I was reading something this morning with the Chancellor. They were trying to go. Well, the government's going to go against what the scientists are saying now, because obviously there's talk about a 2 meter ruling and 2 meter distancing. How they're going to keep up with it? How is shops going to restaurants and things going to keep up with it? I think they're going to scrap it, man. You got to understand.
Did they actually say that?
Yeah. They're going to scrap it. You got to think, right? Imagine being on lockdown for this long, and how much is affecting the economy, and how much for Britain, for the government, the economy is getting affected. Schools are not, students not being educated. You got to think about all them, the hospitality business, the restaurants, the pubs, how much money it makes the economy.
Yeah,
it's taken.
I think what it is.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, sorry. I thought because you went silent. I think my laptop.
Yeah, because I go silent for a second to think about something else.
Yeah, no, that's right. Go on. No, go on.
No. I was just saying that. Farhan, we said about people forgetting about it. I don't think people are going to forget about it. I think it's gonna affect us for mentally maybe. But I think as in out and about, seeing it, maybe in the first few months, but it's going to be a little bit different. But then later on, I think things will start easing, and everything will be. The only things that will affect us is we're going to see hikes in interest rates. We're going to see hikes in.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Everything that's gone down, it's going to go back up again, because they got to recoup that money, right? All the money they gave to businesses, all the money they gave to individuals, all the people that went on to working tax credit. I think all of that, that change we're going to see. It's going to be like how it was after the recession. When things start going up, it's that's going to happen.
I think we're going to see unemployment rise even higher than expected. I think we're going to see people struggling, man. I'll be real, for like a solid year or so. You're going to see a lot of people that aren't in their normal jobs lose their jobs and then have to go into something else. It's going to be a struggle for everyone. Like, look, how many people are now on universal credit? Loads of people, and it is what it is. And I think we're not going to go back to normality just as yet. It will take at least a year or so or whatever, but we'll get back to normal. But it's just going to take longer than we expect it to take. And I think, Blitz, you're right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the amount of people that were in lockdown and like they just want to get back to their normal lives. People are getting frustrated. Like you're seeing MPs and politicians breaking the rules as well. And we forget that they're human as well, that these guys, they miss their social life as well, just as well as we do. So I think, do you know what as well? I think they're playing they're playing to what they always originally wanted, which is herd community, which is why they're going to scrap the lockdown. Let's be real with ourselves, yeah? The lockdown that was a lockdown wasn't a lockdown. Do you get what I'm saying? It was not like what kind of social distancing measures did we have? He allowed everyone to go out for one jog a day. I'm telling you, I went on maybe 2-3 jogs a day just to go to the shop, just to go to the corner shop, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I was so bored at home. I needed to go and get something, a Red Bull or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Just
it wasn't as strict in other countries.
Yeah, it wasn't.
What you seeing? What happened in like even other cities like Milan, and where it peaked at, and I felt like it wasn't a strong lockdown. To be fair.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Do you know what? But before you carry on, sorry, bro. I think, do you know what we should have done?
Go on.
This is me and my mate were talking about this, and he even suggested this as well, was that we should have shut down every single flight or anything that's coming in.
Yeah.
We should have done that for the first 3 months. And the only thing Britain would have to worry about was bailing out the aviation industry. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. You make a good point there. So the UK basically struggled to enforce quarantine rules. And essentially in the future, what we're going to see is the biggest recession the country's ever seen. And I think personally that is going to be the introduction to what we'll later see as permanent social behavior, social change in behavior. So people think now, we're staying 2 meters apart, we'll be hypersensitive about our hygiene. I don't think that's going to last long. I think what's going to happen is the recession is going to hit so hard that people will then develop certain behavioral traits that will continue on for a very, very long time. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that plays, how that comes to play. How's quarantine affected you guys in your day-to-day lives?
Blitz, you want to go first?
Yes, obviously, college is closed, so we have to do online teaching, communicating with students online. Sometimes technology doesn't work, or you can't really control what students actually engage and stuff like that. So teaching has been quite difficult. In the evening, obviously, because having a takeaway has still been open. So that's been all right. But yeah, generally my day-to-day job, like my job's been difficult to do. But I think because there was a period with like a week and a half, 2 weeks I had off the takeaway, and I was at home and I was doing more stuff with my mum. I was spending more time, and you spend more time with your family, and I was cooking more and I was doing these things, and I was like, wow, this is actually all right. Like chilling with, we all live busy lives, right? Everyone lives a busy life, and sometimes you feel like, you just want to sit there with your mum or your family members, and you want to spend that more time. I think I had nice times as well. I think quite frustrating at times, but it's been cool. It's been good at times as well.
Yeah, no, for me as well, I've actually enjoyed it. I'll be real. So first of all, I've saved money.
Yeah, 100%. No eating out
I learned. I bought new games on PS4. Like I said, I've got championship rings on NBA. I'm as good as Michael Jordan now. I scored 108 points in an NBA game, so I beat Wilt Chamberlain. No, but I've enjoyed it, bro. Do you know what? Just being at yard, and I saw Ramadan as a blessing in disguise as well.
Yeah, 100%.
At yard. Don't get me wrong. I'm craving for the mosque. I am craving for the mosque. But I found spirituality in my own home, with my parents, you know, all of us, me, my brother, my mom and my sister, all in congregation in our own yard. You know what I'm saying? That's blessings on blessings, man, honestly. So I think for me, it's been a lot about just chilling with the family, family getting on my nerves at the same time. It's not been perfect, obviously, but you know, I've enjoyed it because obviously I did exaggerate saying I've been out for 2-3 jogs, but majority of the time I've been at yard.
All right, we'll leave it there. Flipping on, man. It's been mad. This has been a really, really good show today. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, man.
No, thank you for having me, bro.
No, it's been a pleasure, man. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. When we started this show, we didn't think that we'd be able to reach out to people like you guys with a platform and who have such diverse views and opinions. So, and this has proven it. This has shown that. So thank you very much for joining us. Before we go, do you guys want to tell us what you've got going on in your lives, what you might be working on, any projects, anything you want people to go show you support on, anything like that?
Blitz, you want to go first again?
To be fair, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to the whole social media stuff like that, I've sort of like calmed down on that. I always call myself a medium, but recently I've seen what's been happening in Yemen, so I want to do something, man. Where I can't do an event or anything like that. I'm just going to start you know, already listening, that works with a charity. I want to work with a charity and raise some money for Yemen.
Make sure you get me involved, whatever you're
bro,
doing.
That's my next thing, where I want to do something for Yemen.
Now the Blitz, you saying that as well, bro. It was mad because last night I was reading about Yemen as well, bro, and it's just honestly because we're in Ramadan. I was raising charity for the Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh. So, bro, if you got something going on, give me a shout. Let me know. I'm down to help because
I'm gonna plan it. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, but me personally as well, in terms of projects, I've just like Blitz. I've calm down on social media, man. It's just honestly, you see who's fake, you see who's real, man. And
we could have another hour conversation about social media.
No, that's another conversation.
So for me, I've just, you know what, I don't want to be mixed into that.
Yeah, same, man. It's all smoke and mirrors, man.
That's it. So for me, for me, it's all about filmmaking, just like making short films with my boys. And writing. I've been doing a lot of writing as well. I know I said all I did was play games, but I've been doing a lot of writing. I created a story, created some short films. So that's what I've been doing, but mainly the charity thing as well, because where I've had time to, I've been doing what I can for charity where I could raise, and obviously, so that's what I've been mainly up to in quarantine, man.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because I used to work on a lot of video work as well, a lot of videography and stuff. So maybe we can do a little cameo, a little something, you know?
Yeah, we could do that. Definitely, bro. 100%.
100%. Yeah, brilliant. All right, cool, man. Thank you very much, guys, for coming on once again. It's been a real pleasure. It's been a real insight as well. I hope you guys, our listeners, have enjoyed it. If you have, why don't you go and give us a little 5-star review? You know, it doesn't hurt you. I'm sure it doesn't. You won't get. It won't break the bank. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other mainstream podcast streaming site. Check us out. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Tomato Podcast. We'll be back next week for episode 50. Is it 50 next week? Flipping hell. And we've got another guest lined up. And I don't want to say his name because I don't want to jinx it, but I feel like I need to put pressure on him so he actually shows what to do. Atif Nawaz, please make sure that you're on the show next week. Please, I've said your name now. Please. I've emailed him. I emailed him like a couple weeks ago and he said, yeah, cool. Then he was busy and then responded saying, yeah, he'll be on next week. So yeah, I've said it, mate. You've got to be on next week now. Again, thank you very much for all the love and support that you guys have been giving us. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, bro. Take care, guys.
Take care. Take care. Yeah, man. Take care.
Bro.
Love.